while withdrawn in secret fields of thought, her mind moved in a many-imaged past that lived again and saw its end approach. Dying, it lived imperishably in her, transient and vanishing from transient eyes, invisible, a fateful ghost of self. It bore the future on its phantom breast. Along the fleeting events' far backward trail, regressed the stream of the insistent hours, and on the bank of the mysterious flood, peopled with well-loved forms now seen no more, and the subtle images of things that were, her witness spirit stood reviewing time. This is the way in which the poem is built. We will know the story of her life because she remembers it. At that celestial moment of her existence, she remembers all her past life, and then it will be told to us. All that she once had hoped and dreamed and been flew past her, eagle-winged, through memory's skies. As in a many-hued, flaming inner dawn, her life's broad highways and its sweet bypaths lay mapped to her sun-clear recording view. From the bright country of her childhood's days, and the blue mountains of her soaring youth, and the paradise groves, and peacock wings of love, to joy, clutched under the silent shadow of doom, in a last turn where heaven raced with hell. 12 passionate months led in a day of fate. An absolute supernatural darkness falls on man sometimes when he draws near to God. An hour comes when fail all nature's means, forced out from the protecting ignorance and flung back on his naked primal need. He at length must cast from him his surface soul and be the ungarbed entity within. That hour had fallen now on Savitri. Mother, for those who have come upon earth fully conscious of their entire being and conscious of their origin, there is at first a period when this consciousness gets veiled by the physical life and the body consciousness. It withdraws deep inside and waits for the hour when the outer circumstances will make it necessary for that inner self to manifest and to become fully active in the body. And generally, as life is organized, it is some more or less dramatic event that makes this change not only possible, but needed. Even those who have come fully conscious because they are compelled to take birth in the body of a child, their consciousness withdraws for many years, more or less, and has not the full activity that it had in other worlds. But some circumstance, some event tears off the veil, and the inner consciousness takes back its place and its activity. It is that is fully described in these lines of Savitri. It is only when the outer crust of the ordinary life is violently broken by some unexpected and tragic event that the inner consciousness has the opportunity of taking the place of this outward movement and governing fully the whole being. From the point of view of the growth of consciousness, that is the justification of all these dramatic events. An eventless life is not often a progressive one. A point she had reached where life must be in vain, or, in her unborn element awake, her will must cancel her body's destiny. For only the unborn spirit's timeless power can lift the yoke imposed by birth in time. Only the self that builds this figure of self can raise the fixed, interminable line that joins these changing names, these numberless lives, these new oblivious personalities, and keeps still lurking in our conscious acts the trail of old forgotten thoughts and deeds, disown the legacy of our buried selves, the burdensome airship to our vanished forms, accepted blindly by the body and soul. The true self of Savitri belonged to the eternal consciousness and naturally was free. But when accepting to take a body upon earth, this true self is covered by so many different layers of consciousness that unless it takes a very complete resolution to manifest and to overcome all the obstacles, it cannot act freely. Now, she was put in front of the expected catastrophe in her life, which externally would put an end to the joy of her existence. And there was only one way to overcome this fatality. It was to make the highest spirit and its power intervene directly in order to counteract the laws of destiny. An episode in an unremembered tale, its beginning lost, its motive and plot concealed. A once living story has prepared and made our present fate, child of past energies. The fixity of the cosmic sequences, fastened with hidden, inevitable links, she must disrupt, dislodge by her soul's force, her past, a block on the immortal's road, make a raised ground, and shape anew her fate. A colloquy of the original gods, meeting upon the borders of the unknown. Her soul's debate with embodied nothingness must be wrestled out on a dangerous, dim background. Her being must confront its formless cause. Against the universe, weigh its single self. On the bare peak, where self is alone with naught, and life has no sense, and love no place to stand, she must plead her case upon extinction's verge. In the world's death cave, uphold life's helpless claim, and vindicate her right to be and love. Altered must be nature's harsh economy. Acquittance she must win from her past's bond. An old account of suffering exhaust, strike out from time the soul's long compound debt, and the heavy servitudes of the karmic gods, the slow revenge of unforgiving law, and the deep need of universal pain and hard sacrifice and tragic consequence. By the power of her origin and the legacy of the One, she must overcome all the laws established in manifestation and conquer the resistance of all that has been organized since centuries and millenniums, and show that the Supreme is all-powerful over his own creation. In all the world as it is now, death and dissolution reign. She wants to establish their law in order to establish the supreme life and consciousness. It is the story of the conquest that will be told in the epic. Out of a timeless barrier she must break, penetrate with her thinking depths the void's monstrous hush, look into the lonely eyes of immortal death, and with her nude spirit measure the infinite's night. The great and dolorous moment now was close. A mailed battalion marching to its doom, the last long days went by with heavy tramp, long but too soon to pass, too near the end. Alone, amid the many faces loved, aware among unknowing, happy hearts. Her armored spirit kept watch upon the hours, listening for a foreseen tremendous step in the closed beauty of the inhuman wilds. It is a very vivid description, showing that a stupendous power and energy is needed to face the circumstances when you know them in advance. Man is always complaining that he has not been given the power to know what will happen to him. But there is not one man in a million who would have the strength, the quiet calm to face the circumstances if he knew them in advance. This is just to give the description of that condition. It is because Savitri is conscious of the divine in herself that she knows what will happen and yet has the quiet strength to face it. A combatant in silent, dreadful lists, the world unknowing, for the world she stood. No helper had she, save the strength within. There was no witness of terrestrial eyes. The gods above and nature, soul below, were the spectators of that mighty strife. Alternate reading: the gods above and nature's soul below were the spectators of that mighty strife. Around her were the austere sky-pointing hills and the green, murmurous, broad, deep-thoughted woods muttered incessantly their muffled spell. A dense, magnificent, colored, self-wrapped life, draped in the leaves' vivid emerald monotone, and set with checkered sunbeams and blithe flowers, immured her destiny's secluded scene. There had she grown to the stature of her spirit, the genius of titanic silences, steeping her soul in its wide loneliness, had shown to her herself's bare reality and mated her with her environment. Its solitude greatened her human hours with a background of the eternal and unique. Mother, it is because no human being knew what she knew that she could be exclusively supported by the power of her spirit. She had not to face human anxiety because the human beings did not know. So she was exclusively wrapped in the power, the mighty power of the Spirit. And that is why she could face quietly the dreadful circumstances. The forests, the hills, were a very good background for the circumstances, because it was the expression of a powerful nature, silent and magnificent. And she felt supported by this beauty and this grandeur, which was not throwing upon her the vibrations of anxiety. A force of spare, direct necessity reduced the heavy framework of man's days and his overburdening mass of outward needs to a first thin strip of simple animal wants, and the mighty wideness of the primitive earth and the brooding multitude of patient trees and the musing sapphire leisure of the sky and the solemn weight of the slowly passing months had left in her deep room for thought and God. There was her drama's radiant prologue lived, a spot for the Eternal's tread on earth, set in the cloistral yearning of the woods and watched by the aspiration of the peaks, appeared through an aureate opening in time, where stillness, listening, felt the unspoken word, and the hours forgot to pass towards grief and change. Here, with the suddenness divine advents have, repeating the marvel of the first descent, changing to rapture the dull earthly round, love came to her, hiding the shadow, death. Well might he find in her his perfect shrine, since first the earth being's heavenward growth began, through all the long ordeal of the race, never a rarer creature bore his shaft, that burning test of the Godhead in our parts, a lightning from the heights on our abyss. There, it is revealed that the way out of death for the creation is love. Love, not as it is falsified and deformed in the human consciousness, but love in its essence and its pure origin. It is this love that found the way to manifest through the consciousness and the life of Savitri. All manifestations of love in the world have always been deformed and reduced to need and desire. For the first time a human consciousness was capable of manifesting love in its simple and magnificent purity. The love that is entirely and totally divine, free from all desire and all selfishness, all narrowness and all egoism. The love that exists for the joy of loving and is at once giving and receiving at the same time in the same vibration. This is the supreme power that is capable of transforming the world and making it ready for the divine manifestation. All in her pointed to a nobler kind, near to earth's wideness, intimate with heaven, exalted and swift, her young, large-visioned spirit, voyaging through worlds of splendor and of calm, overflew the ways of thought to unborn things. Ardent was her self-poised, unstumbling will, her mind a sea of white sincerity, passionate in flow, had not one turbid wave. As in a mystic and dynamic dance, a priestess of immaculate ecstasies, inspired and ruled from truth's revealing vault, moves in some prophet cavern of the gods, a heart of silence in the hands of joy, inhabited with rich creative beats, a body like a parable of dawn that seemed a niche for veiled divinity or golden temple door to things beyond. It is a description of a being that is not shut up in the small limit of humanity. It contains the consciousness of the beyond. Immortal rhythms swayed in her time-born steps. Her look, her smile awoke celestial sense, even in earth stuff, and their intense delight poured a supernal beauty on men's eyes. A wide self-giving was her native act, a magnanimity as of sea or sky, enveloped with its greatness all that came and gave a sense as of a greatened world. Her kindly care was a sweet, temperate sun, her high passion a blue heaven's equipoise. As might a soul fly like a hunted bird, escaping with tired wings from a world of storms, and a quiet reach like a remembered breast, in a haven of safety and splendid soft repose, one could drink life back in streams of honey fire, recover the lost habit of happiness, feel her bright nature's glorious ambience, and preen joy in her warmth and colors rule. This is the poetic description of her nature. The nature of her being that comes from higher and more perfect worlds, the worlds that intend to manifest upon earth, but have first to prepare earth in order that she is ready to manifest them. That is just why Savitri has come down to prepare the earth for the coming of the new world. There is in this description a strong stress on peace and joy, equanimity, and a constant smile. The more things are seen in their totality, the more the limitations are overcome, the more time and space become present, the more can the joy be constant and the peace unshakable. It is only the narrow limits created by separativeness that have created this suffering, this anguish, and this anger. With the descent of a higher consciousness come a happy smile and a quiet peace that are never disturbed. Sri Aurobindo has announced that Savitri has prepared the world, and now the consciousness that she carried in herself is come down upon earth and is preparing to manifest. A deep of compassion, a hushed sanctuary, her inward help unbarred a gate in heaven. Love in her was wider than the universe. The whole world could take refuge in her single heart. The great unsatisfied Godhead here could dwell. Vacant of the dwarf self's imprisoned air, her mood could harbor his sublimer breath, spiritual, that can make all things divine. For even her gulfs were secrecies of light. At once she was the stillness and the word, a continent of self-diffusing peace, an ocean of untrembling virgin fire. The strength, the silence of the gods were hers. In her, he found a vastness like his own, his high, warm, subtle ether he refound and moved in her as in his natural home. In her, he met his own eternity. This is the description of love in its essence, not the love that is known upon earth and is so mixed up with many egoistic movements that it has gone beyond all recognition and become only the expression of selfish desires. It is the love that is as vast as the universe, equal to all and to everything, and asking nothing in exchange for what it gives.